Is Sauron greater than Morgoth? Could one of the Maiar possibly be greater than one of the Valar? Did Sauron really succeed where Morgoth could not? Today's video is going to be a big one because we're tackling a question that's been on the minds of Tolkien fans for years. Who is truly the greatest evil in Middle-earth, Sauron or Morgoth? But it's not just a matter of raw power here. We're going to dive into the nitty-gritty of their successes and failures and figure out just what made Sauron's strategies work where Morgoth's fell short.
Build me an army worthy of Mordor.
Remember everyone, if you find this video helpful, informative, or entertaining today, please remember to hit that subscribe button below. By subscribing, you'll never miss out on any of our latest videos, and you'll be supporting us to continue creating great content like this. Of the many deadly foes faced by Professor Tolkien's heroes throughout the breadth of his legendarium, fans have long debated the differences between the two Dark Lords, Morgoth and Sauron respectively, not only looking at their similarities and differences, but how they went about their evil schemes in unique ways unique to their characters. We can learn much from their character by their actions. Sauron was able to remain patient for centuries, drawing all evil to him and bide his time, striking out at that proper moment. But did this really make him the superior force, and maybe more evil than his master? Well, let's take a look at this together. Prior to the War of the Last Alliance, which spanned decades and had 4 distinct phases before the Siege of Barad-dûr, a council of war was held atop Amon Sul. There the leaders of the war parties, Elendil and his co-counsel Gil-galad, the High King of the Noldor, strategized and discussed tactics before embarking on what would become the War of the Last Alliance. The film adaptation may give the impression that this war that brought about Sauron's downfall took place over a long afternoon, but the book depicts a long and grueling 12-year war, a significantly longer timeframe. Sauron proved to be a formidable foe, and the fear of his possible return was enough to demonstrate that even the mightiest and wisest of Middle-earth's peoples had reason to fear. Looking to Morgoth, he possessed great cunning and strategic thinking, but his inner hatred for his foes often drove him to act recklessly, resulting in negative consequences for his own campaign. He frequently placed himself in harm's way, while Sauron would never make such a mistake. This leads to the main point of the argument. Morgoth, as a member of the Valar, holds a higher rank than the Maiar, Sauron, but one's strength is not solely determined by their might. Sauron's intelligence, cunning, and ability to anticipate and preempt his enemies is what sets him apart. Consider the ring's influence, which is subtle, corrosive, and often goes unnoticed until it is too late. Sauron's plan for the Rings of Power centers around the ring's ability to access the mind of the ring-bearer. Rather than engaging in traditional warfare, he seeks to gain control over the enemy's mind first. This strategy was evident in his approach to the host of Ar-Pharazôn, where he played the long game. Sauron allowed himself to be captured and taken to Númenor in chains, gradually manipulating his way onto the Privy Council of the King, similar to the way Wormtongue's manipulation of King Theoden worked. So, through his cunning and influence, Sauron gained significant control over Númenor's affairs by following this route. His actions were those of persuasion, acts which led his enemy into their own ruin by playing on their emotion, pride, and natural desires. He was able to bend Ar-Pharazôn to his will because he and the king ultimately had the same goal, although Sauron had goals which he kept hidden from the king. The destruction of his own lands, which he was able to foresee as he would have been well aware of the ban of the Valar. This ability to foresee the future was a unique advantage that even Morgoth lacked. Additionally, Sauron was able to prevent the Valar from intervening on behalf of the free peoples of Middle-earth, a feat that Morgoth could not achieve. The reasons why the Valar did not act against Sauron and the War of the Ring have been discussed previously, and you can find the link to that video in the information below this one. Morgoth waged a series of destructive wars himself though, although he was occasionally pushed back. His primary goal was to cause chaos, undermine the Valar, and expand his dominion, but really, above everything, he sought to defy his former brethren among the Valar. If they raised a mountain, he turned it into a valley. If they filled the world with light, he would cover it in darkness. In his most infamous attack, he and his accomplice Ungoliant darkened the realm of Valinor by attacking the two trees, Talperion and Laurelin. Morgoth's recklessness led to Ungoliant growing to such a size that he was unable to confront her, and he would likely have become her dinner if not for his piercing scream that summoned a group of Balrogs to his last-minute rescue. In contrast, Sauron had a different relationship with one of Ungoliant's offspring, Shelob, whom he sought to pacify rather than antagonize. It has been said that Sauron thought of Shelob more like a lot of people would think of a cat. Morgoth's hatred prevented him from exhibiting the same level of patience, planning, and subtlety of evil as Sauron did. If you want to delve deeper into this subject, we have a dedicated video on how Sauron makes war, exploring how he implemented strategic terrorism, turned populations against each other, and targeted his enemy strongholds when they were weakest and divided. So again, the link will be in the description below if you would like to check that out. But anyway, Morgoth's ego blinded him to the point that he gradually weakened his own powers through the dispersion of his perverse creations, including the likes of Glaurung, Lord of Dragons, and all the creatures that fought on his side during the War of Wrath. Each of them was animated by his power, leading to the expenditure of an enormous amount of energy. This explains why he was once able to fend off the entire Valar army by himself, but then later, why he was wounded by Fingolfin's mighty spear, Ringel, which left him with a permanent limp after that time. Morgoth's judgment was often clouded by impatience and hatred, leading him to take risks and make unwise decisions. His overconfidence in his own power made him more prone to such mistakes compared to Sauron, who compensated for his lack of physical strength with exceptional intelligence, patience, and cunning. Sauron's strategic thinking and manipulative tactics are unparalleled in fiction, past or present. As we have previously demonstrated, while Morgoth reveled in chaos as a tyrant, Sauron's approach to tyranny was different. He sought a specific kind of order, his own kind, and was willing to subjugate the world to achieve what he believed was best for the people of Middle-earth. Each of the Dark Lords had a distinct approach to evil. Sauron was the cunning and patient creature who utilized deception, terrorism, and cunning to subjugate his enemies. Morgoth, on the other hand, relied more on brute force to achieve his mysterious goals, despite his claims of dominion over Arda. Sauron was more cautious and willing to conceal his true nature, a feat that Morgoth seemed either unwilling or unable to achieve. Ultimately, Sauron proved to be the more effective Dark Lord, since he did not risk provoking the Valar into the fight and relied on intelligent tactics rather than raw power. Another important aspect of Sauron's success was his willingness to delegate and let others of strength, such as the likes of Saruman, into his plans to an extent. He makes use of others in a way that Morgoth appeared incapable. As for those who turned the tide in the Nerneath Anodiad, the traitors whom Morgoth was able to manipulate were rewarded the same way as all of Morgoth's collaborators were rewarded. We can tell you one thing, very few of them could be described as being treated like a pet. They were treated like kindling, the fuel for Morgoth's own engine of war, and their sacrifices and moral dilemmas were of no matter to Morgoth himself. He was a god, with a capital G, and was entitled to all he could take from the people, and all that people gave was his right. Saying that, Sauron was a narcissist as well, but it is likely he learned from his master's mistakes that one should not bite off the hand that is currently feeding them. Both Sauron and Morgoth would fail for similar but different reasons, and both of those ultimately came down to the way they treated their allies, the way they pushed beyond what was possible for them to maintain, and their never-ending search to dominate the indomitable will of the free peoples of Middle-earth, a people whom both of these tyrants continued to underestimate to their ultimate peril. So there we have it. While Morgoth was a mighty and powerful being, his hatred and impatience often led to unwise decisions and risky moves. Sauron, on the other hand, lacked the physical might that Morgoth did, but he made up for it with intelligence, patience, and cunning. His strategic thinking and manipulative tactics were unparalleled, allowing him to control his enemies' minds and bend them to his will. Morgoth may have held a higher rank among the Valar, but it is Sauron's ability that sets him apart and makes him the ultimate villain of Middle-earth. With that now though, it is time for my question of the day, which is, do you agree that Sauron succeeded where Morgoth failed? Or do you think that actually, Sauron did worse than Morgoth could have if they swapped places? Let me know your thoughts and theories on this in the comment section down below. And now to shout out our patrons. You guys have been amazing in supporting our short film project. We have got some amazing updates coming soon. We are really making good progress and I cannot thank you all enough. We have the Divine Power tier member of Kevin, the Fire Demon tier member of Nashith, and the Wizard Staff tier members of John, Andrew, and Hunter. You are all true legends of the Brohirrim. Finally, I really appreciate your time in watching this video today. If you've enjoyed the content, please consider hitting that subscribe button and the bell icon with notifications enabled, so that you will get notified when all future videos are released. Thank you once again for your support, and I look forward to seeing you next time on The Broken Sword.